Hello from your lovely teacher, Miss Zorn. Today I'm going to teach you how to peer edit a paper. I hope you are having fun and I hope you do well on this peer editing process. Remember, it is all to benefit your paper. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started. First thing you'll need are 3 highlighters and 1 pen, preferably a blue or red pen. Another color besides black, because when you're working on a paper, it is very hard to see black on black or pencil on black. Okay? Another thing you're going to need after this video, the sub will hand out the peer editing paper. You're going to have to go through this checklist, and I'm going to show you how to go through it now with our sample essay that I have already read to you about Susie dying, unfortunately. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is look for conventions. How we do this? Well, we start by reading the entire paper. But first, I want to go over what those conventions are. So first thing, you need to check and make sure that the MLA heading is in the left-hand corner. If it is not, you can write MLA heading in the top-hand corner. So I would go ahead and underline that when you get your paper. Remember, MLA heading is your name, my name, L&L in whatever block you're in, and then the date. Now, you're probably wondering why I put 10 December instead of 9 December, which is the date today. Well, I put 10 December because we like to put the date that we turn things in or the date that the paper is actually due. So we know that that's the actual date you turned it in, even though you might have written it before. Hopefully written it before the day it's due. Now, when we go through, we need to check for spelling. If we see a word that's misspelled, we're going to circle it and put an SP next to it. We don't need to spell the word for them. Okay, they can go back and look up the word themselves. Next, we need to check capitalization. Every word that begins a sentence needs to be capitalized. Proper nouns, such as names, places like cities, states, brands, all those things are proper nouns. Next, if you see an interesting or compelling sentence that really moves you or has a really great sensory details, you want to put an exclamation point next to that. Not only will this help you later when you have to go back and reflect on your peer's paper, but it'll also show your peer that, hey, yeah, you wrote some really compelling sentences and I noticed them. Everyone wants to get noticed for their great writing once in a while. Next, remember you need to add quotes to dialogue. That means if you're writing what someone said or what they were talking about, and you're using them in the actual first person, "Mom, are you home?" Kelly yelled. You need to put quotes around that so we can actually know that it's specific dialogue that they said. Next, we need to make sure that we add periods to the end of our sentence or whatever other punctuation that may be. Maybe it's a question mark, or maybe we really think it's an exclamation that someone's saying, they're yelling. Okay, those are things that we can circle and put at the end of sentences, as well as commas and apostrophes. Remember, apostrophe is for those words that are actually 2 words that we put together. So do and not is don't. Okay, but it doesn't work without that apostrophe because that signals to us that it's do not. All right, so let's get started with actually editing our own paper, and then we'll get back to the peer editing checklist. Okay. Giving life. It was a hot summer day. My dad and I were getting ready to go out for a ride on the boat with my friend Katie and the dog. That's when the phone call came. The call that made my bright, beautiful day a cold, dark, gloomy one. Okay, well, first thing that I noticed on here is that we have a list of words down here, actually a list of descriptive adjectives, which are all very great, but we don't want to say a beautiful day, a cold, dark, gloomy one, right? We need some pauses in there. Usually we would say a cold and dark and gloomy one, but that's too many ands. So usually when we have lists, we put commas. So I'm going to add a comma after cold. I'm going to add a comma after dark, and I'm also going to add an and in there because I like to use the and. So that's when the phone call came, the call that made that bright, beautiful day a cold, dark, and gloomy one. See how that flows a lot nicer, and it just separates our list instead of using a bunch of ands. Okay? I had just put on my suit, shorts, and tank top and packed my bag with sunscreen and everything else I would need for the day. I ran to my parents' room to find my dad. When I saw him on the phone, he was crying. I'd never seen my dad cry before. My heart sank. What possibly could have happened? Well, first thing right off the bat, as you probably noticed, suit is spelled wrong. So I'm not going to respell suit for them, I'm just going to put an SP next to it. They're going to go back and figure out the spelling on their own, okay? Next thing are two words. So instead of I'd, the word is I had. So if we have I'd in there, we need to make sure we put our apostrophe. Next thing I notice is this last sentence here. What possibly could have happened? See the intonation in my voice? Or do you hear the intonation in my voice? What possibly could have happened? It's a question. So that we need to add a question mark there. All right, let's go on. Max, I'm so sorry, I heard him say. That's when it hit me. I knew that Susie had died. All right, as you probably notice, Max, I'm so sorry, I heard him say. That's her dad talking. So when we have dialogue, we need to put those quotes. Max has been my dad's best friend for years. Susie, his daughter, had a rare disease that mainly affected her body. Her brain was okay. She knew what was going on. She knew that she had problems and was different than other kids. Once she told her dad that she wished she could die and be born in a different body. Yet although she couldn't live a normal life, she was still happy. Wow, that's a very good paragraph. The only thing that I see in here is that Susie needs to be capitalized. I usually circle it and put the 3 lines underneath it, but you can just put the 3 lines. That's fine with me. That's just kind of my thing. Another thing that I'm going to point out is okay is actually spelled all capitalized. A lot of students had questions about that yesterday.